Roger Morneau was actually a very wealthy Canadian man. He was part of the upper aristocrat elites. They brought him in. He had started off going to seances with his wife, and eventually one of his wealthy friends pulled him aside and said, look, you're dealing with these demons. He said, you're basically dealing with the bottom of the barrel. He goes, if I want real power, he goes, I go directly to the source. He said, we worship spirits. We worship Lucifer and his fallen angels, and they're just as beautiful as the day that they were cast out of heaven. And our master was misunderstood. That's another thing that really, whenever I was watching the interviews that he gave about his book, A Trip into the Supernatural, he actually refers to Lucifer. That's what they refer to Lucifer as, the master.
And that's how it will start. So watch for full disclosure to come, and everybody thinking, wow, finally the truth is out there. But it's not. It's still part of the deception. I had a creepy feeling, and it's just a feeling, but I felt like I was a canary in a cage and they were the cat. I do think that they probably were part of the team that's not from around here. I think they're the ones that were cast out, the fallen ones. The Bible calls them the fallen ones, the fallen angels. They rebelled against the creator of all that we see here. They are working directly with Satan. They were certainly well placed in the United Nations for what they were doing, to control minds, to influence people there into what's coming. All I can tell you is that I felt an odd attitude from them in the room. And it really felt like I was the prey in the room.
This goes back to what Aleister Crowley made mention of, is that today...
Speaking of the quote that Aleister Crowley made where he said, today they call them angels and demons, tomorrow they will call them something else. And he was direct contact with the Augustus Council of the Nine. And that ties right in with the Council of the Nine, that a lot of the upper echelon here in the United States, like the DuPonts and so on, they were channeling these beings called the Council of the Nine.
Right. The last thing I need us to hit on here is Greg Renrich.
Greg Renrich was a lieutenant colonel, but he held a very high level top secret clearance, one that very few people actually hold. Groom Lake, Area 51. He's been inside down in the underground levels of S4, as well as Dulce, New Mexico. He has witnessed the 10-foot giants and said that they told him and referred to themselves as the Nephilim, said that they were preparing for an intergalactic war with God, and they believed that they were going to win. They made them sign an affidavit that said that not even in anger, even if they stubbed their toe, they were not allowed to use the name Jesus Christ in these underground tunnels. And their final rule on this was that these things were masquerading, they were nefarious, and that they were demonic in nature.
Air Force Academy, I was a cadet there for about 2 years. I trained at IBM for programming systems operations, and for a short period of time I worked undercover for the FBI in Dallas to ferret out some illegal communication between a foreign head of state and people in the company I was working for. So FBI, Air Force, that's the background there, and then computing. While I was at that computing job, I was approached by one of the vice presidents of one of the companies that this huge conglomerate owned. There's about 100 companies that they put together in a package. And this vice president came down and met me in the coffee room, the canteen for the company. He would handle about 1,500 of our 3,000 employees that were sitting, but no one was there except him and me. I was down there to get a cup of coffee. He walks over, sits down, and he has this thick European accent, and he says, tell me, what you do for fun at home. I don't even know the guy. So anyway, the conversation eventually led around to the fact that I was working on an alternate energy source from the sun through the atmosphere, and a way to propel craft, like anti-gravity. At that first meeting, he said, look, you ought to talk to a friend of mine, Dr. Maxwell, up the street here. He's interested in that kind of stuff. And I had no interest in talking to anybody about all this, so I thought, well, fine, thank you, bye. About a month later, I was down there in the same seat, and he wanders in again and sits right down in front of me and says, you haven't contacted my friend, Dr. Maxwell. I said, oh, no, look, I've been busy. And he says, you have an appointment at 3 o'clock this afternoon at this address. Be there. Well, the project was under the direction of portions of the Department of Defense, Australian Department of Defense. My control agent in charge of handling me was Captain Sir John Williams, and the head of the Aeronautical Research Lab was Tom Cable at that time. And my first meeting, they actually had me write a paper on what I'd been doing and the work on the craft, which I did, and present it to Sir John to take with him when he went up to Jakarta, another business trip. But they informed me at the Aeronautical Research Lab in a private meeting with Tom Keeble, the head of the department, and 4 other scientists that work in the department. They informed me that they were researching things like flying saucers and reports like that. So I immediately picked that up and said, oh yeah, well that'll be interesting. Tell me about some of the things you can talk about. And we did, and I was now put under above top secret clearance there. My job was to prepare the notes and suggestions I had for the craft for the high-ranking, the prime ministers, the government officials that eat all the cotton tops of power. Later, I found out that the they're talking about was from beings that they were working with that aren't from Earth. And they had a joint project where humans and multinational groups were supplying underground facilities, sometimes under ocean facilities, with infrastructure to allow these visitors to build equipment they want. And in return, we were getting certain technologies like refined anti-gravity and time dilation devices and systems, and molecular physics where you can walk through walls without breaking yourself or the wall. There were just a lot of things that we got in return, but they were kind of low-level toys. And once our visitors that we were working with made what they needed to keep their operation going without our help, mid to late 70s, we lost control of all of our joint facilities with them. Now, they turned me loose and another guy like me over in London and said, pack up your gear, disappear, hide. And we were the keepers of what secrets we knew to share should they all go down, and no one would ever know what happened. There may have been others, but those, myself and the guy in England, London was the one I knew about. The kind of gray-colored small ones with big eyes, the taller gray ones with big eyes as well, and something that looked like humans, like a fair-haired Nordic type description. They were basically tall, slender, and and their skin, if you looked at it sideways in the sunlight, it was like looking at an oil slick. It was kind of like little rainbows, and they said that was from the small scales, different than our skin cells. The gray ones were biological robots. They had no soul or things like that. They just did what they were instructed to do. Those are the ones that I know about. I know that the Canadian Prime Minister, the former Minister of Defense, who is now retired, did say that they were informed of, nearly 13 types of beings. And biblical stories, they talk about Satan being in charge of a rebellion, being cast down to earth. Well, I think it's that he was in this parallel universe at a higher energy level. He was cast down with some of these cohorts, and they made these beings to build a lie, a deception for the people of Earth. And that deception was that, little grays, Nordics, all these kind here are invading us and abducting us. And then Satan is going to come in with his crew that look just like us, are friendly, and will deliver us from these nasty little aliens. That way, the satanic ones, who appear to be good and friendly, can help us set up a world government. And then he can take over the planet with his man who's going to be the human Antichrist, which the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus in the Greek, will land with his troops and have battle with Satan and his minions, who have executed this great deception to the people of Earth, and will defeat them. And this is the biblical narrative on that, but certainly what I witnessed and what I was told by my security team do fit that perfectly. So my advice to people who see good guys coming from the skies, like in the movie or the series V, where they come and help mankind and give all kinds of gifts in return for seawater and junk, that kind of a scenario will be played out. So the first landing, the first official disclosure will not be of the friendlies, the good guys. They'll be deceptive, just like in that movie V, and they will defeat and remove all the bad guys, the grays and whatever, that were abducting people. And the people of Earth will be very happy. And not only will they defeat those, they will take out of power the people that are called the Illuminati or the Deep State. They're going to chew them up and spit them out, and sad for them, but this is part of the deception where they will convince even the right-wing, people like myself, if we're not aware, that they have come in and cleaned house and got rid of all the evildoers, and they're the good guys. It will be a clean sweep of the House, and for those who aren't schooled in what's going on in this deception, they will fall prey to supporting a new global world order. My objective, and many like me that are Christians, is to be like a watchman on the wall and say to the people that are believers now and some that will be soon, I've been let privy to things that these people would be killed for if I named them. So I've been careful not to name them or the place or circumstance in which the information was passed. I guess you could call it like a Stargate, a parallel universe port. There's a lot of support for that, including Nimrod's Tower. These aliens, I guess we would have to call it that, did apparently come through a portal or a gate. And if you look at the biblical account of Ezekiel watching a flaming chariot come down and land in front of him, it was on fire when it was in the atmosphere and came down and was cooler when it was in front of him. When you port through any kind of a gate from a parallel universe, and this is the theory or hypothesis based on physics, it's going to have a higher energy density than our molecules. They're spinning faster, they're more dense. So to throw off that energy, they need to throw off, this glowing, flaming type envelope around them to get their molecules to adjust to our speed before they can even touch you, or they would hurt you. So these things all add up to a parallel universe, and our universe is kind of like a virtual reality.
The gentleman wanted to meet with me. He and a colleague said they wanted to meet with me. We arranged a time, met. They explained to me what was going on, the project with which they were involved, and their concerns that it was not only unethical and immoral, but that it was a program that was really connected with the demonic, with satanic forces. They described research into psychic phenomena, psychotronic weapons, the attempted perfection of an ability to kill people at a distance, psychically, with only the power of the mind, numbers of things like that. They also mentioned the fact that some aspects of this had slipped into much the same thing as satanic worship, in a way to connect, to contact what they refer to as NHEs, non-human entities. They didn't refer to them as aliens because they were certainly aware that these were, although they could manifest in a physical form, they were not, in the common sense, what we would think of as extraterrestrial. They would fall more into what John Keel termed ultra-terrestrials, from some other dimension, and I would argue it's a spiritual dimension. A group of researchers within various government programs that are attempting to utilize psychic abilities, establish contact, and gain information from non-human sources. These people, these men, because of their Christian faith, oppose this because they see the evil that is inherent in this. They understand that for every good thing that we seem to get from it, every gain in technology that we may accrue, we pay a price. And the researchers that I was in contact with were very much aware of that. Everyone involved with the project understood that these entities, these non-human entities, are not neutral, they are not benign, and that there is a price that's paid spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically by everyone who's involved with this. And it's not a very pretty picture. I found it very interesting they would approach me. And the only reasoning that they gave me was that I had a well-established reputation as a researcher in this field, the field of UFOs and paranormal activity, and the fact that I was a Christian pastor. And they thought that I would bring a good combination and a good depth of knowledge of both of those areas, and could bring that to bear on that. One of the conditions they gave for speaking was that their identity couldn't be divulged. The two that I spoke with, as far as I know, are both deceased now. But they were concerned about retaliation. I think they were more concerned about the spiritual retaliation that they might encounter from these non-human entities that we were trying to manipulate for our own ends. They used terms such as satanic rituals. They hinted at possible human sacrifice. Very much an occultic type ritual in order to gain access to and communicate with these entities. To me, almost the exact opposite of what you would expect someone involved in the hard sciences to take to try to obtain a result. But in order to obtain the results they sought, they had to take that sort of tack. So yeah, very much what originally started out as scientific experiments morphed into what we can do better. We can accrue better results, greater results if we use these, if we delve into ritual in order to contact these entities. I've not seen any indication that it has stopped or that it's been replaced. I think it's still going on and probably, possibly, expanded over what it was when I was contacted by these men. Depending on who creates the taxonomy, there are 10 to 15 different major groups of what researchers will term aliens, that people encounter. And I have no doubt, I'm convinced from the research I've done that what's happening is real. These people are meeting these entities. The only thing I'm not convinced of, are they literal physical beings, or are these spiritual beings that can manifest a physical body? If that's the case, which I believe in most cases that's the process, how do we trust them? Because they can appear however they choose. That to me seems very much like the role of a demon. And we have to remember, even the very peaceful Nordics, the blonde, benevolent space brothers, who preach a message of peace and love and brotherhood. Even Satan can appear as an angel of light. Demons are not always horrible and grotesque beings. They can be very attractive and very much give the impression of wanting to create peace and harmony and love, but not the peace, harmony, and love that's rooted in God. There's information, there's some documents, some letters written by Meade Lane and others that seem to be in the know to a degree. Allegedly, some sort of treaty was signed between, at the very least, the United States government and this entity for the exchange of technology. What we promised to give them in return for the technology, I've never seen a lot of description given about what that might have been. And it may be that no one knows for certain, other than a very limited number of people. That is one, I think, of the opening doorways into contact with these non-human entities. With the two gentlemen who spoke with me talking about non-human entities and the attempt to contact them, I can see the Roswell crash fitting into a timeline of disclosure, if you want to put it that way, that could lead eventually to the governments of the world saying, yes, we've been in contact with, as I believe they will term it, extraterrestrial civilizations. And they're much more technologically advanced than we are, and they're helping us to get past our problems and help us to grow and create a better society. And out of that, I believe, will come a statement, a series of statements that will lead us down the path to believe, be led to believe, that because of the great technological advances that this civilization has, they're also just as spiritually advanced. Because of the continual furor among humans over religion, I think that will be seized on as the perfect opportunity to revoke all current religions and establish the one world religion. Because obviously, if these beings are from somewhere else and they're so much more technologically advanced, they must be just as spiritually advanced as they are in terms of technology. So we've got to follow them. And there you fall into that incredible web of deception. And I see that, I see the web spread out, and I see the edges beginning to lift up to encase as much of humanity as it possibly can. A lot of people don't understand how you can even bring the idea of spirituality into a question like this. I, on the other hand, with my background, can't understand how you can avoid bringing spirituality into this question, because that's the root. That's the root of it. And those who go in with their eyes half closed do so at their own peril. They do so at their own peril. It's dangerous business. It's a reality. It's part of our reality as Christians, as those redeemed by the Son of God, within whom the Holy Spirit dwells. We are under spiritual attack. We have that realm to our lives that we need to contend with. I think the church is negligent in not teaching spiritual warfare and the reality of spiritual warfare to its members. And I think the church fails to train its warriors